So I got a buddy of mine visiting from Mississippi right now, and he brought me a couple things to mess with. So my buddy Corey brought me a dead XLX. Said that he went through a crash, and when he got to the car, the leads had shorted out, and after that he was never able to get the ESC to work again. So it can be a couple things when it comes to these. I went ahead and stripped off some of the externals just so I can do a quick test here. But it can be capacitors, it can be shorted, it can be the MOSFET rails. They can be shorted. So I pulled the caps off and I just did a quick test. The caps are good here. I did a rail-to-rail test here to see if the caps seem to be pretty good. So they seem to be fine. So I'm going to test another thing real quick. And I thought I'd go ahead and kick the camera on because any one of you guys that have dead XLXs, maybe I can help you get your XLX back going. You'll be able to follow what we're doing here and maybe get yours going. Save you a little bit of money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the power supply on, and I'm going to just go to 11 volts. That's pretty close to a 3S pack. I'll just dial it to 11 volts. Okay. And negative rail is on the right hand side when you're looking at the ESC from this angle. And we touch on to the positive rail that's on this side here. There should be no current draw, or maybe just a little bit of current draw, but not a lot. In this case you can see that it's actually drawing about 2.8 amps, and it's throwing the power supply into protection mode. You can actually hear it click. This happens quite a bit with these XLXs. Happens a lot, actually. If you have battery leads or motor leads that touch each other, it can create a transient spike or something like that that can burn stuff up on the board. A lot of times people are afraid it's their MOSFETs or it's whatever, but sometimes it's a lot simpler than that. So in this case you can see that we're getting a voltage drop. It's dropping down to 5 volts, and it's drawing current, and it shouldn't do that. So we're going to go to the next step. I already tested the caps. Caps were good. We're going to go to the controller board itself. So there's a little piggyback board on here called the controller, and that's what this is. This has your MOSFET drivers and the microcontroller and so on that holds the software to control the entire board. Normally we would use a rework station, which is just an air to remove the part, but since this speed control was considered dead anyway, we're not going to worry about trying to preserve any parts. And I don't have direct replacements for anything that's on here, but I have the ability to emulate a replacement that will actually work just fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this iron. I'm going to heat this part right here up. Just touch right on top of it. Just a little bit flowing here. Just touch right on top. And if this turns out to be the case, then I will share with you what this actually is and what's going on. And with that part removed, we'll just leave it out for a second because it's not going to be needed for what we're going to do. We're going to connect the rails back up. And before we had a current draw and a voltage drop. More often than not, this fixes the problem. There it is. No more current draw, no more voltage drop. Okay? Now we're going to watch right here. When I touch this, these lights should kick on. It should be searching for a receiver. It should be trying to go into talk mode where it's making the motor talk to you. Here we go. And it is. Okay? So let's go ahead and connect the motor up to it and see if it wants to talk to us. Oh, perfect. There's the motor I had on it when we saw that it didn't power out. Alright, so we should hear the motor start to talk to us now. Here we go. Perfect. Alright. So now we do need to replace that part. What that part is a rectifier diode. This little piece right here is a small rectifier. Okay? So whichever way it was in there, I can't remember, there's no real marking on there. A diode is going to have a banded end and an unbanded end. The banded end is called a cathode. The unbanded end is called an anode. And it will allow voltage to go only one direction. Okay? When it shorts out, it shorts a circuit and doesn't allow anything to pass past it, it starts acting as a protection. Now, if you try to force it, you can end up burning your circuit up. You can, tear up other stuff. If it would have stayed on for a long period of time, it would have eventually burned open. And then the speed control would have started to work again. You wouldn't have known why, but if you had any problem ever again and it had the issue, this time it would have went further. This case is probably only going to be the diode. So we're going to use this diode instead. Now, this is not a surface mount diode. This is a diode that we would use on a through hole, but we're going to make it work for us. This is a 1N 4001 rectifier diode. I use these all the time on these ESCs, and they work just fine. Fold the leads under. Okay, and you can see the anode and the cathode. There's the little banded end. Now, which way to go with the banded end? I always use the banded end. If you look in the schematic diagram, it looks like an arrow going into a wall. That's the banded end. That's going to be your cathode. The anode you're going to want on the most negative side, using it for protection. I could never do that again in a million years. You see that? It's like something out of a Japanese restaurant. Just popped and landed anyway. But you're going to want, for protection circuit, you're going to want this to be on the negative side, your positive rail here. If something was to mess up, this shorts out, it shorts the positive rail to ground, not allowing anything else past this point, okay? Imaginary. Just imagine a positive rail here, negative over here. Okay, so in this case, this is the negative rail. This is going to be your positive side. And we're going to attempt to solder this between these 2 points. Okay. What I like to do, I like to grab onto it. I like to push it up against something like this here. It helps give those leads a little bend, just like that. Then we do what's called pre-tinning. We're just going to tin the leads, and that just allows the solder to flow. It also heats the part up, makes it ready to take. You got to be quick here. You need to use an anti-static iron. We're going to go ahead and touch the pads. That way the pads are ready to go. Here, come over here. I'm going to get a better view of this. Very good. I'm just going to push this in right here. There we go. Okay. Now, we'll just in here, and it should be lit up. There it is. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera down, and I'm going to put it somewhat back together. I don't think he has all the parts to replace yet. I don't think he has the plastic case or everything. I'm going to put some fresh wire on here, but we'll button her back up, and then we'll just do a quick spin-up test with it. And so he doesn't have the parts to put back on that. That'll be fine. We'll just do a quick spin-up. To really test it, it needs to be under a load, but this will be a good enough test just to make sure that we're getting some type of operation out of it, some type of spinning, and I'm sure it'll be just fine. But we'll go ahead and do a no-load test. It stands. And we'll look at the data log. We know what the no-load RPMs of this particular motor are, so we'll be able to just kind of compare that. Since we're not going to be doing a heavy load test, these alligator clips will do just fine for just quick testing. Look at the radio here. We'll just use a 3S pack. Yeah, because we're not testing with a lot of current, so it won't be necessary to have high current leads. Alright, here we go. She should talk to us. I'm pretty sure this ESC will be just fine. Guys, hopefully this video was helpful in some way. If you guys had some XLXs that are down on you, maybe that issue will be something you guys can fix and get your ESCs back up and running and save you some money and get you back out on the road doing what you do best. So I appreciate all of you guys. Subscribe and like. Share this video if you have friends that are using XLXs and they're having any issues, and definitely appreciate you guys watching.